Sup, everyone, Wave here. Today got this one right here, the spiciest Shadow of the Erdtree hot takes. Let's react to it.
What's up, everybody? This is the Elden Man here, and the flow of time sure is convoluted, isn't it?
We are amidst strange beings in a strange land.
You're damn right, Saleh.
Hard to believe it's already been 2 years since Elden Ring came out, and in my opinion it was nothing short of a masterpiece. Anybody who didn't like Elden Ring had their gamer card officially revoked.
Yeah, I got nearly 300 hours in it, got all the achievements, did every dungeon, got all the items, tested all the builds, and I can say, for sure, it was quite fun for a PvE game. The PvP part is not that great, to be honest, but yeah, let's keep going.
Given that From Software has raised the bar with the Dark Souls Trilogy DLC and Bloodborne, we expected this, Shadows of the Erdtree, to be even better somehow. The question is, does it live up to the hype and expectations? The answer is a little more complicated. However, the more things
I think it damn does. It's insane.
change,
the more they stay the same.
like every major release in the Soulsborne series, there's some juicy controversy to digest. Once again, the flame has been linked, the Age of Fire continues, and the debate around difficulty has been reignited. Some say Shadows of the Erdtree is too difficult, challenging, the bosses are overtuned. It's
just the same argument all over again, okay? It's easy after a long time.
bullshit. Many others are content to rely on the age-old saying, get good. You know, those two...
Yeah, because it's true, man. Like, I hated all those both sides. It was insanity. I played through the entirety of every single Souls game made by FromSoft, yeah? Except Demon Souls. But I can say for sure that every single time, the first time it was like horrendous and I thought this is insanity. Then I beat them and I felt like a god. And after that, it was just quite easy. It was fun. I tried different builds on these bosses. It's not that bad. Some are quite challenging. Yeah, that's true. And you need to learn the moveset for a long time, man. Especially for someone like me. I need to take a lot of time for each and every single one of the DLC bosses in Elden Ring. It was insanity. Let's keep going.
words are pretty motivating. Wife left you for another man, and you lost your job. Dog died. Get good.
Get good.
Stop crying.
Stop fucking crying, bitch! Where?
But who's right and who's wrong? Is it too challenging or not enough? To be honest, I've seen some pretty fair takes from both sides. I think there's valid praise and criticism for Shadows of the Erdtree, but there's also room for some hot takes.
Yeah,
and today we're going to be
let's
looking at some of the spiciest hot takes for Shadow of the Erdtree. Ones that might make you go a little mad. So I'm actually going to take this off because it's really fucking hot in here. And maybe by the end of this video, I'll give you my own hot take. And what better place to start with hot takes than from the man himself, Hidetaka Miyazaki, who says,
really?
I'm still in the process of making my ideal fantasy RPG. While Elden Ring is not quite it, it's getting close.
The next game? Dark Souls 4?
What is
Elden Ring 2?
he smoking? It wasn't quite good enough. Game of the year, not enough for me.
This is the grindset. He's truly on the Sigma grindset. Not like all the other developers who praise him, says, yeah, this is the next game, which will be like 10 times better than the previous game, which we made like in 2016, and every other iteration or the next games we made were just all garbage. And they still are on that trip where they're thinking that they are still producing good games. No, they just have gotten so big out of one like explosion. It's insanity. And they now just keep doing the same formula all over again and create boring games. It is what it is.
Please realize this man will never stop cooking. Like, he refuses to leave the kitchen. Put the frying pan down, Miyazaki. Just put it down already. Seriously, bro made 7 critically acclaimed masterpieces in a row, and he still has the balls to say, I got one more in me. The thing is, for the Souls series, which I consider Elden Ring to be part of, I don't know how much further the bar can be raised. I think it's time their next project should hopefully be another sidestep like Sekiro or Bloodborne. Something that's completely separate from the, medieval dark fantasy style, and they can get more experimental. Still, I think it's very respectful.
I agree, totally.
To still be hungry when you're pretty much at the top, you know what I mean? Like, he's still hungry for more success. Since the discussion around difficulty in Shadow of the Erdtree is so prevalent, I think we should also once again hear from the man himself. Miyazaki on Elden Ring difficulty. I absolutely suck at video games. This guy, by all accounts, should have a massive fucking ego, but he doesn't. And that's what I think is so respectful. He just comes out and says, yeah, I suck at the games I make. Or maybe he's saying that to help people that do suck.
I don't really think he's like looking for the success that we fans think of. I think Miyazaki just wants put his like dream vision out there, you know? Like he's an artist in that form.
Not feel so shitty about themselves. This next take is in Portuguese, so I don't know if it's a correct translation, but... And there are people who still think Elden Ring is better than Red Dead 2. Oh, yep, see, there it is. There it is. Look at the fire graphics. Look at that. I mean, Elden Ring doesn't have that. You know, it's not like Rockstar actually went through incredible crunch and somewhat horrible working conditions.
What the hell? Like, I can put like something in Unreal 5, get some assets, or make something which like looks really incredible, but that doesn't make it a great game. Yeah, RDR2 is like a great game, but still graphics aren't like everything. Come on.
To achieve this level of detail, but we should expect that in every other game too, even when it doesn't matter and it's completely unnecessary. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this is a shitpost. I've never heard Elden Ring and Red Dead Redemption 2 brought up in the same sentence.
It makes no sense. It was like two completely different types of games. It's insanity.
Like, were people seriously comparing these two games? But there's this trend on Twitter where people will do these like weird comparison videos between two games that like are absolutely nothing alike. You know, they'll be like, look at the detail in Last of Us 2. Just look at the facial graphics. What about this? No. We're not talking about the story. Just the graphics. Also, look at Aloy's Peach Fuzz. Look at the Peach Fuzz rendering. Wow. It's so much better than Hellblade, the Peach Fuzz. Yeah, I know this is probably troll and a bait, but I'm gonna buy it anyways. It's not enough to like their favorite game.
I would love to see like in those comparisons that they are like the same type of game. For example, Lies of P and Elden Ring or Dark Souls. I mean, you need to see like the fluidity of the game itself, like how those characters use their weapons and shit, you know? It must be fluid, it must be like hefty with different kind of weapons, and it just depends on the feeling. And with something you can't really see on those videos, yeah, that's true. Because it's something you need to test for yourself, and that's pretty problematic, so yeah, you need to buy it first. But yeah, that's how it is.
They have to find ways to compare it to whatever is popular. Really funny how gamers still haven't realized that realistic graphics are one of the biggest reasons the game industry sucks right now. This is a genuine point though. Yay, your game has a realistic physics engine. In exchange, you will get one game per decade, and the game costs over $500 million to develop. One flop and your studio is done for. It's fucking sad. It's a huge risk, game development. Speaking of dumb comparisons, Elden Ring. Create your own character. Make dynamic choices that change the entire story of your character. Open world with 100+ enemy types, 60+ bosses, on-point landscape-driven exploration, lots of interiors, and some of the best reward systems in the game. Reused bosses aren't an issue since it has a ton of boss variety. World design is insane and lore is good. Insane boss roster, amazing open world exploration, incredible Metroidvania, lots of interiors.
Just with the way you upgrade your character and get all those like upgrades themselves after each boss and those different kinds of areas. They could have done that in a better way, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm not gonna go like deep with this, but I think that they could have been much better ways. Let's keep going.
This is boundary pushing. Most open world games are unable to use interiors. Shows excellence in terms of world design, art direction, and content. Objectively, the best open world designs out there. So he's glazing. He would probably like...
To be honest, Elden Ring didn't really feel like that typical open world game. It felt more like big linear areas with side content. In my opinion, like it kind of feels that way. Maybe it's because there's so much quality in that open world. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Miyazaki's nutsack if he could. Why is this a hot take? Because compared to The Witcher 3, kill things, makes choices that barely affect the story. A character either dies or loses relevance in the plot.
I must say this game was made in 2016, but for its time, and still today, it's pretty great.
Repeat for 50 hours. You left out fight monsters, bang hot chicks, get betrayed by them, kill them. Choices that barely affect the story.
It's great.
A character dies. When's that ever been important in storytelling? If you really want to hop into the fire, just go on Facebook. You will find some.
Yeah, I must say some side quests in Witcher 3 were like a bit boring, but most of it, like even Witcher 3, I got every single achievement. I did the entire storyline, got all the paths, and Blood and Wine was fucking great. We don't need to talk about that, but yeah, I don't know why people hate on that shit. Like, it's one of the few masterpieces out there, like Elden Ring. It's insane.
Some crazy shit. So I usually laugh at complaining posts, but this time I need to make one. This game would honestly be better if we didn't have to heal.
What?
I want my full health bar. Let us divide our health and magic bars based on sacred tier level and do away with the stupid flasks. Seriously, the only reason I can't beat some of these bosses is because I constantly have to stop fighting to heal. They're not going to get rid of a core mechanic that's like healing. Yes, you should be able to heal in the game. You have to make that choice when you're fighting a boss. Do you get greedy or do you back off and try to heal?
And they even have like specifically triggers that in a moment that you heal, that they use a different moveset on you. So they get more aggro and shit. It's insane. What I love about the best Soulspawn healing out there, in my opinion, is in Bloodborne. Not with the vials, but the way you need to play aggressively to get your life back. Like, you get attacked and you have like a temporary moment, like a moment where you have a chance to get a bit of your health back when you're attacking the enemy. Like temporary lifesteal, but only when you use HP. And that's well done, well implemented, and I hope to see it in the future in the next Souls game.
Try to apply a buff. I think there is a point to be made about how small the window of opportunity is in between attacks with certain bosses, that like a lot of items and shit you can't really use. There's a point to be made about that, but to like, you want the full health bar? You just want that shit like stacked 14 times on your screen? You know what? Yeah, this is good. This is an improvement for sure. I have to heal up to 14 times per fight. That's ridiculous. Managing my stamina against relentlessly spammed attacks is already enough of a challenge without having to come to a dead stop and endure a painfully slow animation of my tarnished drinking out of a stupid flask.
It's really fast in Elden Ring. You don't want to see the flask in my favorite Dark Souls title, Dark Souls 2. It's disgusting. Even Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 2 especially kind of feels so slow, and when you get attacked, it's insanity. Like most slower games, when you try to use a flask and like you're in a boss room with like 3 fucking of those sentries. I can remember it wasn't the Lost Bastille in Dark Souls 2, if you can remember that correctly. I did that for the first time. It was disgusting. I never had a chance to use my flask. Like that boss fight without summon was quite hard.
I want to meet this person and
Over gargoyles.
I want to watch them play Dark Souls 2 for the first time.
Exactly, and he fucking mentions it. I didn't pre-watch this. I told you so, man.
I'm just going to be staring in their eyes, waiting to see their expression. Dark Souls 2 fans be like, yeah, boys, who wants to get fucked up?
Yeah.
Beat this boss first try with no summons, but it still doesn't count since I used Blasphemous Blade, apparently. Actually, you're right, that doesn't count. You can't use the things that I don't use. I'm just starting to think that Elden Ring is an easy game, but we have to force a bunch of gameplay rules on ourselves to make it hard. That's the ticket. That's basically Elden Ring. And you can see this in the vast difference between Elden Ring and Sekiro. I think Sekiro is the hardest game From Software has made because you can't bullshit your way through it. You can't just leave this boss and go grind some.
You're forced to get better, and that's insane. Truly insane.
Runes or souls to buff your stats. In Sekiro, the progression is very harshly gated, but in Elden Ring, it's open, it's free. That's the benefit of the open world, is that people have all these tools to fight the enemies with. You could argue the problem is that there's too many tools. It's a hard balance to strike where you're trying to make things that are fun, flashy, and cool, but also make them balanced. Like, if you want to cheese your way through Elden Ring, you can. And if From Software didn't want you to do that, then they wouldn't have put these tools in the game in the first place. That being said, I think there are legitimate criticisms about like how bosses are designed, how levels are designed, the arenas you fight enemies in, and whether or not that's interesting in providing a unique challenge. It's not so much like, I just want to fight a really, really hard boss with a tough moveset. It's also, how do you get to that boss? Do you have to traverse down some fucking poison infected?
No, Sid, Stakes of America. No, none of them. We didn't have that luxury.
Village to get to a hot spider witch? And is that challenge satisfying when you overcome it? Like, that's kind of the ticket with difficulty in these games. It's never really been about the difficulty. That's always been an expression of the harsh world to immerse players into the game further. For me personally, I enjoy the challenge of learning a boss's moveset and all the proper timings, because when you hit that like 6 dodge combo and you can get through it, you kind of feel like a god. It's the same thing with parrying, timing attacks. It all comes down to timing.
Satisfying. So satisfying. I don't know why in Dark Souls 3 parrying and like doing the crit step, a front step or back step, it felt insanely good, man. Especially for Hornet Ring and maximizing your crit. You could get like an extra step. I don't know if any one of you remembers that, but I love that in PvP especially. He's
no pause
it.
button in a single player game is just straight up bad design. I don't care. Well, it's not a single player game, but I get what you're saying. It can be. These games have never had a pause feature, and I don't think they ever will. The reason, I think, is because of immersion. Once again, when you cross that fog door, you gotta lock that shit in. You gotta lock in, and it's just you and the boss in your world. You can't worry about what your fucking kids are doing. If you got kids,
you may need to pause to stop your kid from putting a fork into a socket.
Little Jimmy's gonna stick a fork in the outlet. Let him fry, okay?
Yeah,
Survival of the fittest. Kid, that dumb's not gonna be smart enough to be.
If you see that shit, when you the first priority is like, okay, you won't really care about the game. Why would you care that you like die one time in Elden Ring? Like, no one gives a shit.
Beat
Like,
Elden
the argument itself is so nonsensical.
Ring, so what's the point in raising him? But I think being able to pause like mid-fight would take a lot of wind out of the game's sails. It would take away from the intensity of a boss and your immersion within the game. Like, if somebody calls me when I'm fighting a boss in Elden Ring, this is pretty much what I say.
Fuck! Dude! I'm busy! Call back later!
But it's like, it's okay to advocate for more accessibility. I just respectfully disagree that these games should have a pause feature. I think it's funny that Kai Cenat, like the biggest streamer on Twitch, has been playing From Software games for like, what, 2 months? And he understands these games better than some longtime FromSoft fans.
It's a skill issue. I'm assing your ass. But your ass, though. Because you really, like, say it's too hard. Nigga, put your big boy pants on, go out there, and go fight. Like, what are you talking about? If you went through all that hassle 2 years ago, why the fuck would they make a DLC for you to breeze past and be done with in a day or two?
Guys, we're complaining about difficulty and challenge. You know the drill. We don't fuck around here. I mean, okay, we bitch, we moan, we break our controllers, we give up, we call it quits, and then we boot up the game the next day, okay? Until that fucking boss is dead on the ground forever. Booyah! Woo! It would be disappointing if Shadow of the Erdtree didn't ramp up the difficulty. If we all just breezed through it, that would be pretty shitty. And I think that's the reason why FromSoft forced players to beat Moog to gain access to the DLC. Because if you can beat Moog, you can beat every other boss in the game, I think. Moog's pretty fucking hard. So at this point, when you enter the DLC...
Really? Like, wasn't like... Never mind.
You're supposed to basically have all tools at your disposal. That's the grounds that you should be confronting this challenge on. But I need some spicier takes, and I think I have just the answer. Now, this video is from a very small creator, so I'm not sure if I want to show his channel name or the title of the video, because I don't want to inadvertently send a bunch of hate his way. But I feel like He's so entertaining, I have to talk about him.
So I've been thinking a little bit about Elden Ring lately, kind of how quickly it's fallen off, how it's irrelevant, how the DLC hasn't salvaged the game.
He just hit me with 8 stuns in 8 seconds. What did he say?
Kind of how quickly it's fallen off, how it's irrelevant, how the DLC hasn't salvaged the game.
How quickly it's fallen off, how irrelevant it is.
Insanity.
This has to be masterful
I just got stunlocked, man.
trolling, because right out the gate, I'm already angry.
There have been really interesting lines of thought that have come from thinking about this game and the attempts at making this a cultural phenomenon.
Why does this guy feel like he's like Phil Spencer's son or something? Am I crazy? I feel like he talks kind of like him.
There's been a lot of damage control in regards to the difficulty, right? People are trying to gaslight those who criticize the DLC as simply having been filtered by the difficulty. Like, nobody is complaining about the difficulty
Or he talks like he's a FromSoft insider, man.
in Shadows of the Erdtree, in my experience. The game is easy,
Insane.
it's simple, it's a breeze to get through.
He's fucking trolling. He's trolling me. There's no way. If you take what he says at face value, it makes me mad. Makes me want to convert to the Church of the Frenzied Flame.
Seeing like the response to my my criticisms of like the DLC and the base game and FromSlop as a whole, I kind of get.
From slop. From
Kidding
slop.
me.
I've long talked
FromSoft.
about how other video game titles
Yeah.
are far more hardcore and intense than anything FromSlop has ever done. You know, I've talked about Super Monkey Ball, Monster Hunter, and stuff like that.
More intense, and he brings up Super Monkey Ball.
Super monkey ball.
But is he wrong? Bro, how this guy can say all this stuff with a straight face, like, I
Insanity.
respect it.
Something that I think really needs to be addressed, that needs to be brought up, is that Elden Ring is absolutely easier than the Dark Souls games.
No. He knows his shit, because he knows everything he's saying is gonna be like super inflammatory.
Depends, yeah. I think every Elden Ring boss from the main game, except Melania, was like below the difficulty of Dark Souls 3, in my opinion. Or Bloodborne. Like, Bloodborne was disgusting, man. Often, of course. I don't want to do that again.
It's gonna spark wild debates. Like, if I said that, there would be hundreds of comments being like, "You're wrong, Act-Man." Like, this guy knows his craft. Like, it's uncut. There's no editing. He only calls From Software From Slop. This is a good troll.
Like,
Yeah.
the game has been casualized. The fact that this is only just dawning on me now really just goes to show you just how little respect FromSlop fans have for the older Dark Souls games, right? They don't talk.
Like, he takes a point which is, like, I think, a bit true. But this game, like Elden Ring, has been more like generalized, more simplified in a few ways, and it feels like better for a broader audience. Like Dark Souls or Bloodborne specifically felt more like niche, especially Sekiro. It felt pretty niche for a specific audience which lost the type of game. But Elden Ring is like something everyone could play, like most people could play, and you get through it with ease. Like, you would have challenging boss fight here and there, and some bosses are like pretty disgusting, even much more harder than like any Dark Souls bosses before. But in general, I mean, the game itself is pretty easy if you prepare.
Talk about them. They don't play about them at all. They don't care.
They don't play, they don't talk about, they don't care about the old Dark Souls games. Like, I know it's a troll, but I still want to debate him on that.
Yeah.
There isn't really much of a push to debate as to whether or not Elden Ring is
Fucking disgusting tower.
better than Dark Souls, right? Aside from PlayStation fanboys who will advocate for Bloodborne being better, there is no real discourse on whether or not, like, FromSlop
Where's for the Bloodborne remake? FromSoft. I want my Bloodborne remake right now, man.
has been falling off or not.
Saying this like just 2 years after they won Game of the Year, and then releasing Shadows of the Erdtree to the reception it's gotten. It's just crazy. It's wild to say that they've fallen off at the height of their power.
And I find that really, really.
I think they just did some things differently, and it makes a good game a different good game. But there are just some aspects I don't like personally align with. This dude is just straight up trolling, man.
Really interesting that everything FromSlop does is seen by the community as simply being better and more difficult. Like we saw that with the DLC, right? Where everybody is trying to say that Shadow of the Erdtree is far harder than the base game of Elden Ring. But is it harder than Dark Souls? Is it harder than Demon Souls?
Those are actually interesting questions, because depending on how and when you played those games, like I started with Dark Souls 1, then Demon Souls 2, 3, and then I played them in order. And playing them in that...
I started with Dark Souls 2, man. Even though it's considered the worst game out of all of them, I love it to the core. Just because of the atmosphere and the... I think the first time you play through a Souls game, Dark Souls 2 for me was the best one because of the atmosphere, and it felt like an adventure. Like, I don't know, man, it had that soul in it, which I love. It's pretty buggy. It has so many messy bosses and so many cluttered areas with just too many enemies because they just want to fuck you up. But they still love it for some reason. Yeah, I can't describe it, man.
That order, like each one was challenging in a completely different way that it's really hard to describe which one was harder. Wow. A shitpost that makes you think. Wow, that's crazy.
You know, it's not as hard as Monkey Ball, I can tell you that much, but...
Why do you keep bringing up Monkey Ball, man?
Like, when you really sit there and really think about... When you really start to think about, like,
insane.
wow, nobody I know is playing the DLC or cares about it at all, you know, like, when you really start to, like, look at, like, oh, 5 million units sold, that's great, except... You know, that's probably the absolute peak it's going to get, right? You know, it fell off very quickly after that.
Yeah, it fell off after 5 million sales.
What?
Wow. This has been a real treat.
Like, there wasn't some major resurgence of interest in Elden Ring, and...
You see what I'm saying? He's so good at... I'm just going to be reiterating
triggers
myself
you
if
every
we
single
continue
time,
watching
like-
this. I'm just going to say, wow, that makes
Man.
me angry. Great troll. Hey, man,
It gets you tingles, you know?
keep doing what you're doing. Keep up the great content. I love it.
I've made this comparison before, but it feels like Elden Ring is in the same boat Skyrim was a decade ago, right? When that game came out and everybody swore up and down it's the greatest game ever, and yet, like, you know, actual Elden Ring fans, actual Elder Scrolls fan, excuse me, you can't even keep these games similar. They're so generic.
God damn it.
What?
Oh, got me again.
Elder Scrolls fans came out and said, like, no, like, Skyrim is disappointing, right? It's shallow, it's basic, it's uninspired. Morrowind was better.
The debate around,
Nah,
like,
Oblivion was the best.
which Souls game or Elder Scrolls game is the best in its series is much different than, like, are these still objectively good, fun games? And the answer is yes. All of the Souls games are fantastic. It just comes down to personal preference, which one you prefer the most.
You know,
Yeah.
the Elder Scrolls has been falling off for a long time.
Now he's talking shit about Elder Scrolls. Well, I mean, he's actually not wrong. I mean, Elder Scrolls Online, you know, that's the new game, Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah, 6 years since the trailer, boys. 6 years.
It's shocking to me, you know, as a real hardcore gamer, how often, like, a lot of the people who advocate for Elden Ring don't really seem to know all that much about video games in general, right?
The way he slinks in those subtle insults to people who really, really love these games is it's just chef's kiss.
And these are like the stereotypical,
He's
like,
farming
modern
haters, man.
gamers, the kind of people who will seriously
The
tell you
haters.
that Elden Ring is hardcore, right? That is the Elden Ring audience. You know, people who don't even know what's out there. This is the reality, right? They are like the Marvel consuming, like, mainstream lowest common denominator slop, right? They are the people who show up to Adam Sandler movies.
He's comparing FromSoft fans to Adam
Elden Ring is an Adam Sandler movie.
Sandler movies. That's the lowest common denominator. God, we have to finish this video.
But now, like, you're really seeing them, like,
Come on, don't flame Adam Sandler so much. I kind of like those movies.
get more aggressive about it. You know, like, aggressively try to pretend that, like, no, FromSlop is the hardest game series ever. Oh, it's way better than Zelda. Oh, like, and they'll go to great lengths to try to discredit them and dismiss all their arguments.
This is so stupid. You can't compare Zelda to Elden Ring. Like, they go in different directions. Like, they have some elements and inspirations from, like, especially Elden Ring took many inspirations from Breath of the Wild, or was it Tears of... No, it was Breath of the Wild, yeah. And yeah, it's not the same thing again.
Right? Because to them, not enjoying Elden Ring is sacrilegious and it should be condemned.
He's not wrong. I'm genuinely surprised this video that I think is a 100% troll actually got me to, think a bit more critically about games. And I was actually like agreeing with a couple of things he said. Yeah. Overall, great troll. Love what you're doing, man. Keep it up. Fantastic video. Made me super angry.
Monkey ball.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what all did we learn today? Well, we learned that Red Dead Redemption 2 is better than Shadows of the Erdtree because of grass physics. In Witcher 3, your decisions don't really matter. And most importantly, From Software has officially fallen off. I always loved the discussion around new From Software games, and it was actually kind of hard to find more legitimate hot takes for this video, but takes I thought were
One hot take from my side. I think the PvP side of Elden Ring is like pretty bad. I know, like, not the gameplay itself in those PvP arenas, but how you do PvP. What I loved about the Souls games was that you had a faction. Where are those factions? I miss them, man. Like, you got an identity. Especially in Dark Souls 3. They could have built it up where you had like some kind of end game with Elden Ring, where you could farm in those arenas like specific weapons or spells, which were like pretty high tier, especially tailored for PvP or something else, or unlike the new gameplay mechanic. Would have loved to see that, and upgrading your character and your specific faction, getting better and stronger in that regard. But for me personally, when I play PvP in Elden Ring, I don't have like any joy after the first arena fights. They were quite fun. But after a few hours, man, I got quite bored out. I won, I lost. Sometimes I checked it out like from time to time, but nowadays I don't want to touch Elden Ring PvP ever again. And I hope that in the next Souls game, they will do something about the PvP problem. I hope so. Because that is where you endgame hardcore player base will be at the end. You know what was great, so great about Dark Souls 3? It was like the Anor Londo area, and that was like the classic PvP area, in quotes. I've seen so much content about it. It felt like a niche, night-knitted community. And that is what has been hugely lost with Elden Ring. And that's quite sad. But yeah, that was my hot take. If you can call it that, but yeah, it's just my opinion, man.
Interesting nonetheless. But what do you think? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the Act Man for more awesome content.
Let's go.
All right, everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the... Wait a minute. I promised you my hot take too. And it just might be the hottest take of them all. I was disappointed with Shadows of the Erdtree.
What?
Video coming soon. Peace.
He's trolling. Okay. Great video. Leave a like to the Eggman video. I just reacted to it. And yeah, he did the content. And I guess that's it. I just want to hear your opinion as well if you have one. If you want to critique me or in some way give me some guidance on how I can do things better or something. Or that you didn't like about my reaction or whatever else, like what I can react to or talk about. But yeah, I'd love to see that communication between us. And yeah, that's it. Guess see you next time. Wafer.